Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr. Speaker, can I first of all acknowledge the contribution of that member on the Select Committee, as well as Mr. Speaker himself and Kamaljeet Bakshi, who, along with my colleague Trevor Mallard and Green member Holly Walker, considered this bill. At the time of its referral to the... I did acknowledge you, Mr. Speaker, as one of the members of the committee. I did specifically acknowledge you. And I think Mr. Oakenfold's losing his attention span. I certainly referred to the Honourable Trevor Mallard. So when it was Raymond Hull, quite right, thank you. Mr. Speaker, when this bill was referred to the committee originally in March of this year, the Minister asked our committee to have 1 week to receive the briefing on the bill from officials who we couldn't appoint until we had the meeting. Within that same week, to call for and hear submissions, and within that same week, to deliberate and report back to the House. That was the urgency that was accorded to this bill in March of this year. 1 week we were given. I went back to the Minister, the Honourable Maurice Williamson, and I said to him that I thought that wasn't really appropriate or reasonable, and he agreed. We extended the length of time the Select Committee had from 1 week to 2 weeks. 2 weeks we had, and in that time the committee appointed their advisers, received our briefing, called for and received submissions, heard submissions and deliberated. We did our work in the best way possible. We took this issue seriously because we understand the value to our public health and safety of the regulation of practice of plumbers, gasfitters and drainlayers. This is actually not a small issue, this is a really important issue. If we have people performing that work who aren't qualified to do it, then we can have serious health and safety issues, and none of us on the committee wanted that. So we did take the issue seriously, thinking of it as within that public health and safety frame. But what we were asked to do was to really consider the fact that this matter has been considered by the Regulations Review Committee, it's been considered by the Ombudsman, and it's been considered by the Auditor-General, and I don't think any of those bodies are lightweight or insubstantial. The Regulations Review Committee is rigorous. The Auditor-General is completely independent and has a rigorous process, as does the Ombudsman, and all three of those bodies came to the conclusion that this process was wrong. The Auditor-General recommended alternatives. Our committee discussed at length, given the short time we had, it wasn't as long as we might have preferred, but we did discuss how this problem could be fixed once and for all, and it is not my view that retrospectively validating fees and levies that have been ruled to be inconsistent with the law by the Regulations Review Committee, the Auditor-General and the Ombudsman, it's not my view that that is the way to fix the problem. Chris Oakenfold, who just resumed his seat before I took the call, noted how often he has been part of discussions to try and resolve this matter. He said that if the Honourable Maurice Williamson had made a mistake, it's hardly imaginable, but if he had made a mistake, then he would front up and say, I've made a mistake, and put hands across the water and try and fix it. Well, actually, Mr. Speaker, that's what we did. We said to the Honourable Maurice Williamson, you can do your political point scoring as much as you like. His entire third reading speech was political point scoring. Clearly, Chris Oakenfold missed it. But we actually want to fix this in a way that ensures the public health and safety issues are resolved and is fair to the plumbers, gasfitters and drainlayers, and this is not the way to do it. So on that basis, and actually with great sadness, to be honest, because I don't want this bill to come back again, we are going to vote against it. The member knows that. He was at the committee when we made that determination. Mr. Speaker, it's not actually within the scope of this law, but of this bill, but I also want to draw the House's attention to other concerns that were raised, and I want to give our commitment as a party to working with other parties throughout Parliament to address the issues that were raised by submitters. They raised a very significant issue of lack of transparency and accountability. So money is being collected from registered tradespeople for a purpose that has now been determined as outside the law. This is what this bill is going to alter. But the accusation has been made at the committee that that is not what those fees and levies are used for entirely, that there are other purposes to which those fees and levies are used. Now, that is the accusation that was laid. I would like the board to improve its accountability and transparency so that all doubt about the use of monies collected can be put to bed. And at the moment, I don't have that confidence. So that's the first challenge I'd like to give to the Minister and to the board. We were told that the board collects just under $35,000 a week, and yet last year only 13 people were prosecuted. That seems to be quite a large amount of money for a small number of prosecutions, and again, the accountability and transparency of the collection of fees and levies, the use of the money and exactly what cost what, would remove any doubt about that. We want to be confident that fees and levies that are collected are used for the purpose for which they were collected, and at the moment there was certainly some doubt raised with the committee. There was an extraordinary amount of money reported to us that is being spent on legal fees despite the board having in-house lawyers. And again, if the board was a bit more open with the members about why they may have needed at some stage to engage counsel from outside their permanent staff, then there wouldn't be such suspicion about it. I don't think a board should operate with its members creating suspicion. It should work in the opposite direction. The Minister has on several occasions in the House said that, and indeed again this evening, said that this bill will bring the Plumbers, Gasfitters and Drainlayers board in line with other boards who regulate the activities of tradespeople. That is not what the Select Committee was told. The Select Committee was told that there are a myriad of ways that boards operate, and I frankly don't think that's very satisfactory, but I think it's a misrepresentation for the Minister to say that this would bring the Plumbers, Gasfitters and Drainlayers board in line with other boards, because that's certainly not the advice that we've taken. In fact, with the licensed building practitioners and electricians, we were specifically advised that they have an entirely different method of funding. The idea that the board would be insolvent is a bit of a nonsense. It's less than $500,000 that they would have required, and actually now, because of the passing of time, there's no such danger, there's no such risk of insolvency to the board. Mr. Speaker, the final point that I want to make is that I think that the board have carried on, despite the regulations review ruling, despite the Auditor General's comments and despite the Ombudsman's determination, they have acted in a way that I could only describe as arrogant. Those bodies determined that they should not continue with the practice in the way they did, but instead of desperately seeking for a solution to resolve it, they went as if it was the only option to the Minister and said, we require retrospective legislation to validate the collection of fees and levies. I don't think that that is the only answer, and I don't think this is the best answer. I think that we should have sat around the table with the relevant bodies and tried to reach a solution that would, as I said earlier, guarantee New Zealand public the health and safety that we require of plumbers, gasfitters and drainlayers. They are doing an important job. There are high risks. Chris Ockenvold was absolutely correct when he talked about the public health contribution made by these tradespeople as opposed to medicine. He was absolutely 100% correct with that. But we also wanted a solution to this issue that was fair. And unfortunately, retrospectively validating legislation that has been ruled by the Auditor General, the Ombudsman and the Regulations Review is inconsistent with the law isn't the best answer.
Simon O'Connor.
Mr Speaker, pleased to take a call here on the Plumbers, Gasfitters and Drainlayers Amendment Bill in its third and obviously